We're back. So what are we doing today? We are making a mess down here, which is always what happens when you take off the transmission pan. And so what we're doing today is we're changing fluid, changing filter, and we're installing one of those shift kits that we put in the 03 Buick a while back. So on the bench we have the pan, the old filter, that's going away, in favor of a new filter, and this accumulator valve, which is still leaking oil, which I'll be taking apart with these bolts in a minute, and it'll all come out. And then we're going to install that shift kit in there like we did for those that follow the Redneck Garage. We did that on the 03, I don't know, year and a half ago. All right, we got the cover off, and we have the valve bodies out, the little plungers that go in here, like that, on that rod. Keep all that together. And what we're going to do is, this is the stuff that comes in the new kit that improves the shifting characteristics, different tension springs basically, and affect how these work. And so we'll get those swapped out and put it back together. All right, there we are now, all assembled. So we'll just take that gasket, slap it on, and put the cover on, and we'll be ready to put it back in. Here's the old springs we took out. And actually it's interesting because there's 3 that go back into this side to replace the 1, and 2 that go back into that side to replace the 1. So all different kind of a springy, cushy effect. Well, there we go, everything's in. We have the valve body back in, and we have the new transmission filter in. So we'll clean up the pan and slap it back on, put fluid in, and we're done. We're all cleaned up here, and I'm going to reuse the factory gasket. The College of Redneck Garages kind of our consensus that this is a better gasket than the one that comes in the rebuild kit, which is all kind of curled up and everything. Anyway, they say unless it's really visibly damaged, to reuse the factory one, so we'll be doing that. There we are, back together. You can see it looks a whole lot cleaner than the oil pan does. We have the plastic pulled back on the garden, and you can see the remains of the corn rows from last year, and kind of the hardened stumps. I cut them off from above the plastic, but yeah, they don't decay too quickly. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and till those. The dirt is fairly soft. It's nice and workable, so I'm not sure I'd need to till it except to get rid of those and kind of make the surface soft again for the plastic so that nothing's poking up through it, and there's still room in the holes to plant new stuff. So I guess if I didn't plant corn, if I planted some other crop, like here's where the tomatoes were last year, there's nothing poking up there, and over here's where the beans were, just a couple little weeds to pull. But yeah, those corn stumps are something to be reckoned with. So here we go. I have to pull a few things out of the barn in order to unbury the tiller, which is buried way in deep, since it only gets used a couple of times in the spring every year, and then it gets put away. I have used it once already down on this fence line. Chewed up that so I could level it out and put the fence in. And what's going there, you ask, by the way? Probably, I got a few big packages of flower seeds I'm going to throw in there, so hopefully it'll turn that fence line into a beauty. Anyway, when I got it out for that, usually I have to fiddle with it quite a bit in the spring to get it to go after not running for a year, but boy, it popped off on the second pull. Let's see if it's going to be as good to me like that today. Well, let's see how it goes. Here's pull number 1. one pull. It looks like we got some volunteers, vegetables of some kind coming up in the garden. This could be cucumbers or squash or, that'd be my guess. They'll be coming up for seed in what was the compost pile. That almost looks like an onion. And another one. Be interesting to see. Well, one of the things that's challenging about working the farm is getting projects done. And squirrel, what's that? Oh, yeah. Attention can kind of be go sideways sometimes, which is what happened today. And somehow this trench got dug. I got to thinking the other day when we pulled the plastic up from the garden that I should be putting down the temporary, it was temporary sprinklers here. One about where that first post is, and another, right in here somewhere, I guess. Probably, right about here. And what those do, I'm just really smitten with this black plastic scheme. And but one of the things that going that way meant was that we would no longer have the overhead rainbirds in the garden. And those, in addition to covering the vegetable garden, they would also hit the raspberries over there, and they'd cover part of the duties here in the orchard. So I had to replace both of those, and last year I put down a little bit nicer drip hoses over in the raspberries. I may lay down a third one this year. I'm not sure they're getting quite enough water in the midsummer. And then I hooked up with hoses. You can see the hoses still here. Some temporary sprinklers that would shoot back into away from the garden, but back into the orchard. One on the side and one down on the bottom. And then there's also established sprinklers over here along the fence line, one here and one down there a ways that shoot in from this side. So, like I say, I'm kind of smitten with this plan, so I'm going to stick with it, and decided I wanted to make this line permanent so I don't have to re-rig it every year and kind of have the sprinklers. They're just on those little push-in stakes. I have those pushing over, and so, dug a trench, go down, get some parts. I really don't like rigging hoses. I know that's kind of a, I don't know, gardening form of Goldilocks, I guess, but it's, I like permanent sprinklers that you can just, and anymore I can run it from this phone. I can just turn them on and off from the phone, from the smart clocks, and I like that. So we're going to do that. We still have hose. The last part, I don't think I'll get to it this year, is we have two hoses coming across here from the valve box over there. So maybe next spring I'll cut this little bit of a trench across the yard here, bury those. It works out okay, but I'm always a little nervous. Like now they're so buried in the grass you can't see them. But I always get a little nervous if I happen to want to cut the grass a little lower in the summer, that I better be careful as I cross the hoses here to lift the deck back up. And I'd just be more comfortable if they're underground. And the second hose, of course, comes over and feeds the drip system that's out of there right now. This year we've had a little bit of crimson clover coming up. I think I hear a song. Well, there's our new sprinkler line installed. Basically, I did this with a hose last year, and this head shoots out into the orchard this way and travels up there. That head shoots to the left into the orchard that way. And I still have a little bit of overground hose left, and that'll probably be next year's project. So between here, I have two hoses going over to the valve box, only about 20 feet But I'm running out of time to stop and trench that this year. I got a few other things on the plate. We got to get this garden rolling. So growing season doesn't wait for anybody. So if things clear up later on, I might get to it, but I doubt that I'll get to it till next spring. It'll be a short project. And away we go. So we're just about ready to fire this whole garden and orchard area up and get it going. We've been dry for a while for Oregon. Kind of a dry winter for us. All right, doctor, the wound is closed and we have the drip irrigation back and we're ready to put the plastic back on. This could easily be on the planet Endor with little Ewoks running around. We call this periwinkle. I'm not entirely sure if that's the correct name or not, but we got a whole bunch of it growing around the farm. Transplanted from this very patch, which is beneath some big cottonwood trees. And the farm's down that way. You could probably almost see it about a quarter mile away if it weren't for the trees in the way. But yeah, in those days, I think it came out of here probably 40 years ago. There was about 3 or 4 big prominent cottonwood type trees up here back then. And I think all of those have probably since fallen down and their offspring have taken over. But we even packed up some of this back when we were still living in Denver in the 80s and took it home and planted it in the backyard of our house. And it did well there. So, and it gets these, purple blossoms on them every year about this time. It takes over almost as bad as English ivy does, so I'm not sure I'd really recommend putting it in your yard. In fact, I was hacking away at a whole batch of it today with the weed eater, giving it its yearly haircut. And meanwhile, I'm hiking up the big grade here on my own today, so I thought I might take the big hill. This is a pretty formidable climb. Okay, I got the camera level. Looking at the road from the side, that's the grade. I'm in a field of what looks like noble fir here, up above the farm. I hiked up that road for what seemed like a mile or two because it was all uphill, but I'm guessing it's probably more a third of a mile. I could swear on a stack of Bibles that I was up here only maybe 4 or 5 years ago when this whole field was, they had put it in some sort of grass for the summer, harvested that, and then that next winter came up and did the saplings here. Some of these are taller than me now. They are growing really well. And man, I'm sure maybe they're growing better than my memory. I'm thinking it almost had to have been longer than that. Some of them are still squirts, but they all went in at the same time. So now let's keep heading up the road and we will end up right up there in what I believe was last year's clear cut. Now at the base of the tree farm here, there's a fork in the road, and I believe it's on this fork that goes off to the left. Donna, if you're listening, maybe you can correct me on this one. Goes off to the left, and up there somewhere I believe, was what we call Grandpa's Meadow. And so named because that's where my dad put the ashes of his parents. I haven't been able to find it since. Not since we've been out here. But the special thing about Grandpa's Meadow was that it had, looked like it had once been a homestead. There was a place right on the edge of the forest up there, kind of on a hillside, and it had kind of fruit trees growing around it, as if there once stood a house in the middle of all those fruit trees. And then around that, if you went up in the springtime, which is probably what we should do if we're really seriously trying to find it, it had all sorts of daffodils in bloom. So it had clearly been some sort of homestead at some point. And I guess within the year after my grandpa died, his ashes came up this way, and Dad took them up while the daffodils were in bloom. We all went up, and I remember Susie and I were out, and I think little Katie was out, and for a visit. It's before we moved out here. And we went up, and Dad said a few nice words and scattered the ashes around those daffodils. I'm a puffin. Made it up the hill. And we're standing right at the edge of last year's clear cut. And you can see that it's already been replanted this winter. And how about that? Starker forest sign planted this year. So there you see the baby trees. That's probably about 8-9 inches tall there. Some of them are a little taller. That guy's maybe a foot. And then as you swing around, the trees in the distance there and the ones on this side of the road to the left, they're all about the size of what was in there before. So that's a good, I'm gonna guess at 150 feet maybe, in terms of how tall those are. And so right here you got a tale of 2 stages of a tree farm. Now as we continue up the road and crest the hill right here, go a little bit further, we'll be able to look down into the Grays Creek Canyon. Now this looks closer to about a 10-year-old clear cut and replant. And like I said, it's just what you come up to over the crest of that hill, and right down into this area is when you hear me talking about Grays Creek on a walk. That's down at the bottom of this little valley. When we go up the other way out of the back gate, swing around. This was just a massive, massive clear cut. Last fall, when it was open for hunting season up here, Terry and I took the truck up and we went up this road right here that turns off of the one I just walked up on, and it goes way up the hill, all the way up behind that timber there. And this clear cut kind of angles around that notch on that hill. And there is one lone tree to kind of stand sentinel over all these youngins. I guess they can draw inspiration from that feller. Look at Great Grandpa. Now I also see something else I believe I took home to Denver to plant there in the yard. Sometimes called Scotch broom, or more affectionately witch's broom. It does look nice for a couple of weeks in the spring, but I think most Oregonians would laugh at the suggestion of actually planting it on purpose in one's yard, because it's around these parts it's pretty much considered a weed. It's not terribly attractive the rest of the year. Not the most picturesque of days, but that's Mary's Peak, dead center. See it under the cloud cover a bit. Christmas trees. Gonna be a lot of Merry Christmases in a couple of years. It's like a sea of witch's broom up here. Goes on and on off into the forest. Look at the lime green new growth on these. Wonder how tall they'll be next summer. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, again, maybe about the time that Christmas tree farm was being planted, that this area was thinned out by the logging company. I'll bet they removed maybe half or 2/3 of the trees from in between all of these, leaving it looking almost park-like. In fact, you can see the stumps from when that happened. I'm guessing half the trees. Looks like one of the logging companies has a toy parked up here on the road off to our house. Not quite sure what it is. Well, the base of it looks like a basic excavator. Not sure I know that name. Not that I know a lot of excavator names, but this attachment on the end is not a bucket. It's, I don't know what it is, a mulcher or something. Chains on one side. I'm not quite sure what that is. Well, it's a sad day here at the farm, but we may have to pay tribute to this good old rototiller. Gifted to Dad by friends of the Farm Report. Hello, Al and Patty. Thank you very much. This must have put in 20 or 25 years of good service here at the farm. Every spring. It sometimes would take a little coaxing to get it going in the form of starter fluid. I was impressed this year. One pull, fired right up, no starter fluid. Couldn't believe it. However, and it ran fine while I was tilling, and I pulled it in, shut it off, went to use it again a couple days later and can't get it to fire. And it's making kind of a hellacious noise as I pull the rope. Sounds like maybe something is loose in the, like the piston rod or the valves or something. Just doesn't sound right as it's turning over. Can't get it to fire. And I'm wondering, do I want to take this time? I guess I'm done with it for the year, but do I want to take time to rebuild it this winter? It's also leaking gear oil pretty badly from the back end here, from the differential. And I don't know, it might be time to retire this one and move it on to somebody with a little more winter time than I have. But salute! Did good service. I've talked about having these two guys, Red 1, Red 2, but I don't know if they've actually appeared in the same picture before. So I wasn't making it up. They're really here, no Photoshop. So today, Red 1 had cracked rear tires that were starting to leak, and Red 2 has decent tires. So I swapped them out because I'm still working on Red 2 for the transmission slipping a little bit, and I'm trying to diagnose that. So like I say, if nothing else, I'll get a good mower deck out of it, and now a good set of rear tires too. So, well, those of you familiar with the Farm Report, this will be a familiar scene too. Here we go again. We used to have about a dozen trees right here behind Camp A, and some condition has taken them in the recent 6 or 7 years, one at a time. And last year we left these two, and now we have just one left, the big one. So today we're going to pull this one out, and I have my pull lines ready to guide that hopefully in the direction of the truck. And I got my throw rope with the little throw bag on the end that I use to throw up there and get it as high as I possibly can and tie it off. Today we're wanting to avoid these two little new trees, these little maple trees here in the cage. One here, one here. These were volunteers in the compost pile last year that I transplanted. And we just kind of happened to want a little bit of fill back here since all of the fir trees that were back here, almost all of them are gone now, all but one. And we'll cut this one down and it'll just be the one. The idea here is to take this, and it's kind of a heavy little bag of BBs or something, and then swing it up like a sling and grab it around a branch and then tie this end to the rope, pull the rope around, and then tie that to the truck. Well, I got a notch in the tree. I don't think it'll come down yet, but I'll give it a little nudge. Sometimes they're kind of rotten at this point and they'll just come right over with the notch on them. So let's see. Gonna have to give it that back cut.
Probably just push it over back there, huh?
Yeah. Now the goal is not to hit our little trees. So come over just to the left of those cages. I had to come out and film tonight because this is just amazing. This is the moonlight. It's almost daylight out here. Of course, it's pretty big and full.
And he was right. All our marbles in one jar, rolling easy. excel at loving you morning, noon, and night. And when the jar gets shaky, we'll steady it together. One flesh, one heart, one life now and forever. Together, one time, that tender space where our souls entwine. We're to become one being in a single design. God first, spouse second, every blessing we're given. Holy Spirit guiding every step we're living. One time, one heart, one love, one climb, one flesh, one being, one story, one time. Terry, when the sunrise touches your face, it feels like the whole world slows down. There's a peace in the way you smile at me, like a soft wind rolling through this town. And I thank the stars for every day your heart has lived beside mine. Oh, Terry, you are my morning light, my gentle song at the break of day. You turn the ordinary into something bright. You lift my spirit in your quiet way. If love is a river, then I'm drifting free, and every current carries me to you. Your laughter dances like a meadow breeze. Your kindness grows like summer fields. You're the place my wandering heart comes home. The sweetest truth my life reveals. And on this day the world was blessed, because it brought you here to me. Oh, Terry, you are my morning light, my gentle song at the break of day. You turn the ordinary into something bright. You lift my spirit in your quiet way. If love is a river, then I'm drifting free, and every current carries me to you. Let the mountains echo our love tonight. Let the sky hold the wishes we made. I'll walk this life with your hand in mine. Every sunrise, every heartbreak. You're my compass, my comfort, my sweetest friend, my beginning and my journey's end. Oh, Terry, you are my morning light, my Birthday blessing, my forever song. I'll love you gently, I'll love you strong, I'll love you all my life long. If love is a river, then I'm drifting free, and every current carries me to you.
You turned upside down on me. This little mounting mechanism has maybe seen its day. See if that holds.
zip,